Your Excellency, dear Prime Minister Orban, dear guests, distinguished representatives of Hungarian private sector, dear ministers, representatives of governments, it is my great pleasure to welcome you here in capital of Georgia, in Tbilisi. Today's event demonstrates that my country is becoming more and more interesting for the European business community, and I am very happy with the prospect of advancing business relations between our nations. Bilateral relations between Georgia and Hungary have been indeed very dynamic, and I am very delighted that today they have reached a very good level with more regular exchange of high-level visits, resulting in a number of important bilateral agreements aimed at further strengthening our political, economic, and cultural ties. I am glad that during the meeting with Prime Minister this morning, we were able to cover a broad variety of important issues. I am glad that we will undoubtedly continue cooperation by deepening our bilateral relations in all directions, including, of course, one of the most important, economic cooperation. Georgia is a small but incredibly vibrant country, strategically located at the crossroads of trade between Europe and Asia. By signing the association agreement with the EU, including deep and comprehensive free trade agreement in 2014, we took a major step towards our European goal. We have made steady progress in establishing European regulations and standards in Georgia. Our economic policy is oriented towards free, fair, inclusive, and sustainable development, and we are following a bold reform agenda that will continue strengthening our democracy and economic growth. The government of Georgia is currently implementing a 4-point reform plan that will allow us to make a qualitative leap as an emerging economy that is aspiring to become more diversified and knowledge-intensive. The main priorities of this plan are a growth-oriented regulatory framework, an education system geared towards human capital development, spatial planning, and effective governance. Georgia has one of the most liberal foreign trade policies in the world that implies facilitated foreign trade regimes and customs procedures, low import tariffs, and minimal non-tariff regulations. One of the top priorities is integration into the world's leading markets. Our country offers one of the best business environments in the world, which improves year on year. I would also like to list some competitive advantages of Georgia. In addition to our business-friendly environment that I already mentioned, it is certainly our geographic location. Georgia, as a country of only 4 million people, may seem to be a small market, but if you look at Georgia as a regional hub, then it is a whole different story. Georgia as a gateway not only to South Caucasus, but also to Central Asia, European Union, and then further to Western and Eastern markets, and we provide physical access through modern transport infrastructure and normative access in terms of free trade agreements. Very soon, Georgia will be, after signing of the free trade agreement with European Union, we will be the first country in the region to have a free trade agreement with China. We also have in place free trade agreements with CIS, Turkey, and GSP regimes with United States, Canada, and Japan, and plan to launch a free trade agreement negotiations with India later this year. Thanks to a liberal trade regime, low taxes, and our strategic location, Georgia has become a new regional frontier for investment opportunities. We are offering foreign entrepreneurs a competitive environment for expanding their businesses in the whole region that will reduce their operational costs. We are developing strategic transport corridors connecting Asia with Europe. We are involved in several international initiatives and infrastructure projects, such as the new deep-sea port near Anaglia on the Black Sea coast, which strategically lies on the shorter route from China to Europe. The Baku-Tbilisi-Kars railway project, East-West highway project, and other important strategic projects. All this is part of the revitalization of the ancient Silk Road. In this regard, we see Hungary as one of the most important trade and economic partners, and we are willing to further strengthen and intensify our economic ties. We hope to attract Hungarian investment and know-how in Georgia. With Hungarian investors, there is a strong foundation to build on. Only in the first 2 months of 2017, trade turnover between Georgia and Hungary started to grow dramatically by 48%. But, quoting Prime Minister of Hungary, Mr. Orban, I need to admit that the numbers we have today are way below the existing potential. So our aim is to proactively utilize whole potential between our two countries. I believe we will manage to use an untapped potential and ample opportunities through partnerships at this level, and Hungarian businesses, with our active support, will find suitable partners and expand their activities and presence in Georgia. When it comes to pro-business regulatory framework, Georgia has a lot to offer. We have a world-class outlook as a business destination. Georgia ranks 16th in the world out of 190 countries on the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business Index. On the 2017 Index of Economic Freedom, Georgia placed 13th in the world and 5th in Europe. We also have one of the lowest tax burdens in the world, coming in at the 9th position in the total tax rate indicator of the World Economic Forum's Global Competitiveness Index. Since the beginning of 2017, the government of Georgia taxes corporate dividends rather than earning, thereby rewarding investments. Our major recent development that will help facilitate people-to-people exchanges and business opportunities between our nations was granting Georgian citizens visa-free travel within the EU. As a result, you can expect to see more Georgian businessmen visiting and cooperating with Hungarian business partners in the near future. In this regard, Wizz Air can serve as an excellent example of a Hungarian business thriving in Georgia. At present, this low-cost airline operates flights from Kutaisi, geographically center of Georgia, to more than 12 European destinations, thus facilitating the new era of the economic cooperation between Hungary and Georgia and peoples of our countries. In conclusion, I believe this forum will help to transform our traditional friendly political relations into a very strong economic partnership. We truly value the role that businesses can play in driving bilateral relations forward. Thank you very much, and I wish you good luck.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. If I understand correctly, the job I have to do here is to make some closing remarks. First of all, may I just invite you that we have had very fruitful and mutually beneficial negotiations with the Georgian government and the Prime Minister. First of all, I would like to say to the Hungarian delegation that now I have some personal impression, and you can be sure it's a stable country. The Prime Minister here previously was an economic minister. He will never say that because of modesty, but he was one of the most successful and highest ranked economic minister, not just of that region, but in the world also. So now the prime minister is an expert of economic policy. So what he has said just here on the possibilities, you can be sure that it not just exists, but will exist in the future as well. Second, may I just say that I was convinced today, having the conversations, that the Georgian government tried to do very much similar things in reforming this country as we have done in the recent years. So I recognized many programs of modernizing the tax system, how to reshape the education system, how to get closer the real needs of economy to the education capacities, even at the highest level. So all that kind of issues, how to modernize and streamline the bureaucracy. So all that kind of issues, what you can see here is understandable on the basis of your knowledge about the Hungarian economy and the Hungarian society, which is a good sign and the possibility to cooperate. May I just say that regardless that we Hungarians regularly get news from Georgia in relation with the conflicts with the Russians, may I just say that what's going on here is a very reliable foreign policy. I made clearly understandable that Hungary is in favor of the territorial integrity of Georgia. But what I've seen is that the plans for the future and the operating of the economy does not depend on that conflict at all. So please, Hungarian business persons, consider this country, even if having that disputes between the Georgians and the Russians, consider this country as a stable, reliable, foreign policy-led and based country as well. So it does not bother your business activity at all. It's very important probably to know. The third point I would like to make, that I had some doubts how the Hungarians can be present here because of the distance. But you know, being undereducated is not a privilege of the prime minister. So some of them probably could be surprised also that the two countries are far closer to each other geographically than we have seen and saw previously. So it's 3 hours by flight. If you go to London, it's not 3 hours, it's 2.5, 2 and 50 minutes. Or Madrid is even far away. So we are closer to Budapest now, here in Tbilisi, than it would be in the case of sitting in Madrid. And it's almost, by and large, the same distance by flight than Moscow. So Tbilisi and Georgia is not the end of the world. It's closer to the Hungarian economy than generally the Hungarian perceived that situation. So I would like to encourage you to use that understanding that this is a close country. It's not just close in geographically, but it's close culturally as well. It's not the issue for today here, but when I visit any foreign country, I try to understand what kind of cultural links we have. And may I say that we Hungarians could be proud of here how we have contributed to the culture and cultural legacy of the Georgian people. So we have done good things here. And I try to understand also the language connections also, and when I prepared myself for that visit, I identified 3 words which are basically the same in both languages. The first is bridge. The second is kalamáris, which is the ceruza here anyway, and the tepsi, which is very important expression. So may I just say that culturally, this country is not an alien country at all to us. Politically speaking, dear business community, may I say that there are very few number of countries in the globe in relation with we Hungarians can say that we have never had any conflicts in the past. There is no conflicts of interest in the present and can think about together on the future. And Georgia is one of that very rare country. So I would like to encourage again and again the business community to use that possibilities here as well. Ladies and gentlemen, if I understood correctly that country, that this is my second visit here anyway, this is a country where there is a high reputation of pride. It's a free-minded country. It's the country which loves being sovereign and has a high culture. So we Hungarians like to think about ourselves the same way. So probably the ambition of the nation here is very close to the ambition how we Hungarians would look like. So, speaking on the business possibilities, may I just say that I think we politicians have done everything which could be done for your cooperation as business communities. The political conditions of your activity here are given. Political relationship is perfect. There is no open issue. And the Hungarians fully support the aspiration of the Georgians to getting closer to the European Union. We were one of the constant supporters of the visa-free regime request of Georgians to the European Union. And in the future, the Hungarian foreign policy will support the getting closer policy to the European Union of Georgia also. The financial, that's the political conditions. The financial conditions are here also. May I just inform you that the Hungarian Exim Bank has opened a credit line of more than $90 million to facilitate the business-to-business cooperation between Georgian and Hungarian companies. The legal conditions are also provided, which means that today we signed the joint declaration on investment principles. Today we also signed the agreement on harmonizing the statistic methods of the two custom offices. So I think the legal preconditions are not perfect, but close to that. We have to have one more step in the future, and this is the joint investment defending system, which we have to work on that. But that agreement we signed, just the joint declaration we signed today, is a very important step closer to that. And we agreed with your Prime Minister that we will accelerate that process as much as possible to provide 100% security in legal terms for your investment as well. And finally, after the political conditions, the financial conditions, and the legal conditions, may I just say that the possibility of reaching out to each other is also provided. There is a direct fly, as the Prime Minister just have mentioned. The visa-free regime is knocking on the door, and we Hungarian government provided scholarship for university students, raised that number from 50 to 80 today. So annually, 80 students from Georgia could come to Hungary on the scholarship financed by the Hungarian state, being educated in Hungarian universities. And just having an idea from the Hungarian business community, we agreed that we will extend that scholarship program to the secondary school system also, especially in the field of agriculture. And we are ready to educate the secondary school students of Georgia to come to Budapest and to come to Hungary and being educated on agriculture issues, not just in the school benches, but on the practice at the field also. I think that could be a new program. We agreed principally that we will create it, and hopefully the ministers will provide the legal basis for that. So, ladies and gentlemen, dear Prime Minister, all in all, what politicians can do, we have done. Now it is your turn to take advantage of it and make a lot of profit during your mutually beneficial cooperation. I wish good luck to all of you.